We are on unceded Coast Salish territories, and we're live on Vancouver CoopRadio 100.5 FM. And joining us are Reem, Chahrour, and Rabbi David Mivasair. Reem, did I say your last name incorrectly?
No, you said it the way I typically say it for those that can't pronounce.
Say it for us again, please. Please say it for us again. For the record, we just want to make sure that... I was trying to joke around.
It goes either way, Reem Chahrour or Reem Chahrour, whichever accent works best for you.
Reem, you're joining us for the first time, so welcome to our program, and thank you very much for taking this time. I know that it's pretty late in the evening for you guys, and David, I as always get information from you, and I saw this post that you had going on about this land sale opportunities, illegal land sales and so on. But before we get into the conversation, can we maybe start for our listeners who want some context? Reem and David, could you please introduce yourself? So I would start with Reem. Please share a little bit about yourself, your background, and where you first learned about this issue happening here in Canada.
Specifically to what issue?
Yeah, the issue of the property sales. Sorry, yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay, let me introduce myself. Hi, I'm Reem Chahrour. I'm based in Toronto, born and raised in Canada. My parents immigrated from Lebanon to Canada in the 1990s, early 1990s. When it comes to the case of occupied territory, it's something that's always been in my family because my my grandfather, was affected by the Nakba. Currently, I'm a professional in partnerships and sales for various companies, a lot of how I stumbled upon this was Facebook ads. Actually, it's kind of insane to say that, but I think a few things that came to my mind is very timely. It's very interesting, the timing of both of them, kind of the one that happened this weekend and the one upcoming on Thursday, and they were just blatantly in our faces. So I'm wondering if it was like some sort of search engine optimization, advertising thing to...
or maybe they were just going really broad. Who knows, huh?
Well, yeah. I mean, when you're doing a lot of research and you're trying to fact check everything that comes out of the Israeli entity, with everything that's been going on since October, obviously your search results are always going to wield Israel or occupied Palestinian territory. So I assume I was probably served those ads because of that, and I'm pretty certain I'm not the only one. So. Yes, definitely. A lot of us learned about it through social media, and I guess that's probably where word was spreading around the communities who are interested in this. David, can you let our listeners know a little bit about yourself, and in particular, when you do this, if you don't mind, just can you give us a little bit of context, David, around the shift of perspective that you undertook in your life journey, just so that we contextualize yourself a little bit more for our listeners?
Yeah. Well, thank you. So part of my life journey was living in Vancouver for 23 years.
Where we know each other from, yes.
That was great. I loved that. And so I grew up in the U.S. I'm Jewish. I became a rabbi. When I was a young person, I was kind of searching for my place in the world and thought that would be Israel. And I went to live there for the rest of my life. But I didn't stay for the rest of my life. And it's been a long journey of kind of reevaluating, trying to keep my eyes and my mind and my heart open. Mm-hmm. And I've come pretty much 180 degrees away from that.
Right.
And I'm quite opposed to there being a Jewish state built on land that actually belongs to other people and was taken away from them.
Yeah.
So
and David, where did you? Sorry, go ahead.
This is what I'm devoted to, trying to right that wrong and stop the continuing wrongs that are ongoing.
Yeah, and quite often we've talked over the number of years whenever there is a spike and this issue comes up. I mean, of course, the issue is always up, but you know what I mean. We generally do connect around that time, and I've always appreciated your your understanding and the way that you are steering things together. You were the one who actually invited me to invite Reem to come and have a conversation. So perhaps we can go back to David just to get, because that's, I'm guessing, I don't know, the two of you met there. So David, where did you hear about this particular incident? And then I want to come back to Reem and get her sort of discussing about it. Yeah.
I heard about it in activist circles in the Toronto area. Oh, we didn't say this. So I live in Hamilton, about an hour from Toronto. Mm-hmm. So I'm in the orbit of Toronto. And I heard about these real estate sales in synagogues through activists who were opposing them.
Okay.
Unlike Reem, who was the target of advertising for the sales, right? The realtors thought that she might be interested in buying some land there. If they only knew who she was, they would realize that she couldn't even enter the country.
So Reem, when you found the news, tell us what your thoughts were, and then subsequently what you did accordingly. Yeah, please.
I mean, naturally, I clicked on the link just to kind of look at it. And for some context, like my grandfather being ethnically cleansed from his village in Hunin, which is in the northwestern point of the district of Safad. Now it's been renamed to Margilat. Just curiosity killed the cat. It was one of those things where I'm like, well, I just wonder if like there's any land being up for sale there, even though our family still has deeds to that land. But curious to see if they are selling anything. Can I see some listings? Can I see a bit of my home, where my grandfather was born and where he lives with his family, and where my father hopefully will get to go see one day. But I feel like it's a weird feeling. I feel the trauma from the Nakba in 1948 has kind of just passed on generationally. And even though we're seeing the generation of those that were ethnically cleansed, getting to the age where they might be forgotten, it's still instilled in our generation, and hopefully my children as well down the line will also feel some sort of attachment to that land as well. But yeah, naturally and very curiously, I opened it just to kind of see if it was something I could peek into. It seemed to be very gated at first, but then when you do a bit more research, you start researching the names of who the sponsors are. Again, you just go down this like deep rabbit hole and get into some information. So one of the first things I noticed was, I think at first it was hosted at a disability center, which was kind of ironic given the amount of people being disabled in Gaza right now. Not to say that
sorry.
obviously not all.
I'm so sorry, but thank you. Yeah, that's funny, but it's very, very pathos. I mean, wow. Okay. Yeah, really.
And then I think once we made it public, really, like, I think we were, when I say we, I mean my friends and I, we were waiting for, like, some sort of action. There's been rallies downtown Toronto and other cities across Canada, if not the world as well, that have had rallies to, make sure that Canada or other places are not complicit in violation of international law. So I was waiting for, these organizations to maybe do some sort of action. When I didn't see anything, I was like, okay, I'm just going to spread the word. Like, what's the harm in literally posting public information?
So how did you spread the word? What did you do?
I asked friends if they knew about it. They were as shocked as I was. And then once we found a few friends that were kind of like as angry as I am, I think everybody that I shared it with, their reaction was somewhat similar in frustration and disappointment and sadness. Our first fear was, is Canada allowing this? Is Canada being complicit in potential sale of occupied territory in the Palestinian, 67 borders? And I think within 5 minutes, I just did a quick search within Keller Williams and found 2 listings that were. And I think from there it just started to like enrage everybody. So it was just something that kind of hit home to us in that regard. But yeah.
So what happened?
How we spread it.
What happened? You posted. People got angry, and then
people wanted to come. People wanted to share their opinions. There's this one video circulating of a man in the U.S. I believe he's based in New Jersey, because this event isn't just happening in Toronto. It's happening, depending on what company you look at. But some of them are happening in Montreal as well. A lot of them are happening in the U.S. But it's a North American roadshow for real estate. And when you dig a little deeper into what these are, you start to notice it's real estate on occupied territory. I think I was a bit just taken aback by how blatantly in your face they are about it. Like, literally, they're not shy whatsoever about being public with it. We got people to want to show up, and slowly that group, friends of friends, told people, allies of allies. And I think everybody's reaction was the same. Like, we can't let this happen. Canada can't be complicit again in land theft and property theft.
And David, is this the same protest or event that you went to?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to. You're asking about how Reem got this going and organized. I want to add some of the dynamics.
Please do.
That I was observing.
Okay.
So there are some wonderful, well-established, experienced Palestinian activist groups and Palestine support groups in the Toronto area. My organization, Independent Jewish Voices, is one of them. Yeah. There's Palestine Youth Movement. There's groups called Toronto for Palestine. And they talked among themselves, thinking about their capacity and their priorities, and they decided not to do anything about this. And one factor is that this real estate sales was taking place inside a synagogue. And they were very concerned about the optics and how it could be misconstrued if there was a protest at a synagogue. You're saying, right, because you know it would be misconstrued as something that they can call anti-Semitic, and then that becomes the whole focus of the whole thing. So these large, experienced groups decided they weren't going to do it.
Strategically, they stepped back. So
Reem and her friends just went ahead with it. They didn't stop. They pulled the whole thing together in about a day and a half. And I happened to be on a WhatsApp group where they were discussing it. And I thought, like, I got to be there. I just got to show up.
And so you told your friends too.
I did, but I didn't bring many other people.
Okay.
I think the dynamics. It's very interesting for me to see how just complete grassroots organizing. Reem said to me she's never organized anything before. This is like the first thing she ever organized.
Wow,
and it was amazing. Hundreds of people came. It got lots of press coverage. It totally disrupted the event. It completely problematized it. Like, that event did not go on business as usual. They had hundreds and hundreds of people. They had police. So it was just very interesting to see the big groups decide they couldn't do that, and then just people decided, well, we're going to do it anyway, and they did.
Wow, talk about grassroots. And Reem, way to go! Congratulations! Thank you, first of all, for having the courage and then doing it with your friends and getting other people then interested and involved, and then now people are talking about it. That's awesome, Reem.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, humbly, I want to also attribute it to just, you sit and you think, well, what is a protest? A protest is, calling out something for what it is and being really upset and against, what's going on. In this case, it was just blatantly in your face, not okay. And I was like, it's one of these things where I feel like it's the bare minimum that anybody could do, and I encourage anyone listening or anyone listening to this in the future, if you feel that what's being done at the moment is not enough and that there's something like a step further that you can take, don't be afraid to. Like, I think about what my grandfather would have thought, what his siblings, what his family would have thought if we had just sat in our homes or, rallied downtown on a Sunday afternoon to yell at buildings that are empty. What that would do. And not to say that isn't important to do, but I feel like everything has a time and place, and this one needed attention. Hundreds of people did show up, to David's point. It wasn't a large group that you would see, on the weekly with a lot of the rallies that happen downtown. Those are very comfortable, very easy to do. Obviously, there are things that happen in those events and rallies that bring light to specific issues. This one brought light to varying topics of things, and I think concerns that, Ontario, Thornhill, York Region, Toronto, like all of Canada, if not outside even of our borders, needs to take a closer look at. Like, are we really unifying people, or are we dividing people further? And we look at events like this, and this is dividing people further. This is causing more hurt and trauma and wounds that are getting bigger and bigger to sew. And I believe people have it in them to change, but it takes our leaders and our politicians, and it takes us as people as well, our voices, to say, no, this isn't right. No matter how much you tell us what's going on, we can see with our own eyes what's going on. So I encourage anybody, if you see something that's really deeply affecting you and you want to do something about it, I was willing to show up on my own, but it was nice to see everybody there.
Wow, no, that's really awesome. That's really awesome. And, to your point, that, I mean, organizing and organizations are doing work, and everybody needs to step up. Everybody needs to do something and just call it out whenever. And it's so awesome that people are also waiting for things like this to be called so that they can show up as well and lend their support. David, I want to ask you, David, I wanted to ask you a question around the particular location and the synagogue that this event was held at. And then I want to transition over and ask Reem about what the other side was like. And I think you know what I mean, Reem. So maybe we can start with David, if that's okay. I mean, anybody can talk about it. I don't want to put anybody on the spot either, but let's talk about the synagogue itself and the location particularly.
Yeah. So holding it in the synagogue, I think, is a way for the people doing it to escape being criticized. They know there's a dynamic where people are going to maybe on one hand actually respect a house of worship and not protest there, and then on the other hand also be afraid if they do protest there, they'll be accused of being anti-Semitic.
So using it as a cover in a way.
That is what happened.
Yeah.
What's that? I'm sorry.
No, like using it as a cover in a way to purposely decide to put it in a synagogue.
Yes.
And what can you tell us?
I just want to add another thing there.
Please.
So many synagogues, almost all of them, are so attached to Israel. I would say it's a kind of idolatry that's replaced actual religion.
So
David, because of this, I just wanted a brief context.
It kind of fit. I just want to say, it kind of fits. Sadly, tragically, it shouldn't be that way. That's not what synagogues should be about. But they've become a kind of a stronghold of Zionism. So in a way, it fits to do what they did.
See, David, what's really interesting for me when I hear you say that is the double standards that we have around how other places of worship, quote unquote, are used to radicalize people. You see, and then on this side, and we've talked about this before, where we have entities in Canada that are supporting and recruiting or giving scholarships to, or so on and so forth, to the IDF and all the rest of it. So we definitely have this thing going on, and I wanted to explore this. So it's interesting for me to hear that we have a majority of synagogues very much Zionist and supportive. So I want to transition over and ask then, Reem, so you decided to all come and show your presence and let people know that this was not acceptable in Canada. What response did you get from the folks that were organizing or around the perimeter of the synagogue?
First it's it's a sigh of disappointment and sadness, because obviously I think the main goal here was to paint us all as anti-Semitic, but it's not our fault because we didn't choose the location of where this was going to be held. If anything, they deliberately changed it to a place of worship. So automatically it was sad to be outside there in the first place. You didn't have to be standing outside of a synagogue to demand, an event that's going on in there to be investigated.
You were supposed to be at a disability center, as you were saying earlier.
Right, exactly.
Right,
It went from bad to badder. It was really horrible. Had it been at the disability center, I can only imagine the people that actually need to go in and out of there, what they would have had to see that day, and where do I look for resources? In that regard, when there's people standing, outside protesting against this establishment. But, when it came to what the counter protesters' reactions. I remember when I first parked. I parked. I got out of my car, and the second I got out of my car, obviously I'm holding a Palestinian flag, and I had maybe 5 cameras point up at me and zoom in. So then I went back in my car within minutes, and I drove off, and I parked somewhere else so that they wouldn't kind of mark my card. You never know, right?
Yes,
so like obviously when you have 5 cameras
very
pointing
smart.
at you, you're like, oh, I'm the elephant in the room.
Very smart. Yes. So you changed locations and then showed up again?
Yeah, so I changed locations at first, and then I remember when I walked by, I met up with some of my friends, and they were like, oh, well, one of our friends has already gotten pushed by someone on the other side, and police are all around. They were aware of it. The mayor of York Region put out a tweet thread the night before saying that he's aware of the protest. York Region Police is going to be all over it. And I do want to talk about the police a little later, just to kind of go over their thought process around all of this. But it was insane to me that it wasn't even 8:40. I think literally one of the messages in our group chat was, it's not even 8:40 yet, and we already have someone being assaulted. And police are doing nothing about it yet again. So it just kind of like escalated from there. Around the corner of that same parking lot that I was going to park at, that's the parking lot that it happened at. The guy with the nail gun. It's
well,
like
that's where that happened? That's where it was?
Exactly where that happened. It was literally steps away from where we were standing. It was literally where my car was going to be parked at.
Oh my God.
Believe that.
Oh my God.
I think it was a library that was in that area that's across the street from the location that we protested at.
But Reem, that went on so long. Where were the police?
That's a lot of the questions that I asked throughout the day. You would have no idea the pleas that we all had. Like, you would assume that you see, like, an average civilian sees somebody in police uniform, and if something were to happen to you and you ask for help, that they would be there to help. But the response that we got from police was, oh, that's not in my department. That's not what I'm here for.
Wow.
There's other departments. And to their credit, they were right, because it looked like police in yellow vests that were clearly wearing police and holding guns and all of that were there to control the streets. And then there were police in gray pants that apparently that we protesters should know in beige pants, are the ones that are liaisons. And then the one in gray are like SWAT. And then the other one, like the amount of police departments, I guess, that were there, and the loopholes, I guess they took us on this like gymnastical route just to get to someone that could do something about something. So yeah, you would only imagine there's 50 cops standing outside from all varying departments, and we're asking for help, and the first thing that you get told is, well, it's not, and that's not my job today. A police officer. You can only, like, my cousin got pushed down from not even a police guard. I was asking a police officer to identify if a certain individual was police or not. They were wearing like security stuff. When they turned their back, I forget what it was a company name for a security company.
Okay.
And then it took a while until police responded to me and said, no, that doesn't look like he's one of us. I'm like, okay, well, he just pushed my cousin on the ground. I need your help. Like, I'm afraid of going up there alone to ask for his identification so I could file a complaint. And I had it all on camera. They were, A, very unresponsive. It felt like you were talking to a wall.
Wow.
And B, you kept being told, in the video, one of them said, if you're not going to let me speak, then I'm just going to end the conversation. So I let him speak, and the words that he had coming out of his mouth is, well, you can go to Major Mac and blah, 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 give me an address that's like, I have to go walk into a police station to file a report for someone that's literally standing right there. Like, please just grab his identification. It was really sad and disappointing to see, not only from the counter-protesters, but even in how who's supposed to serve and protect us was not doing that whatsoever, or they were doing it for if your skin color was a specific color.
Wow. I mean, Reem, look, it's shocking and it's unshocking. I mean, it's not shocking, like, at the same time, but just to hear it happen like this, it's really weird. David, what was it for you, like, at the protests? You've been to so many gatherings. I don't really like to call them protests. Maybe I use gathering. It's probably not a good word either, but, at times like this. So, David, what was this experience for you like?
This was a protest. We were definitely protesting something. No, for me it was horrible to see the hundreds of like extremely aggressive, belligerent, pro-Israel people. with flags, with very, very, very loud music that it really like kind of breaks my heart. They're playing religious Jewish music to push back against people saying you shouldn't be selling stolen land in a synagogue. It was vicious. It was so ugly. It was horrible for me.
David. Yeah.
And I think for me, an added element is these are my people doing that. You know, I used to love going to synagogues. I was the rabbi of synagogues for about 25 years. And seeing synagogues turn into this is tragic. It's horrible. I mean, it was terrible. And I want to encourage everyone to not give synagogues a free pass. When a synagogue is hosting something that is so blatantly immoral and probably illegal, it's not functioning as a synagogue. It's not a holy place. It's not a place of sanctity, and it doesn't deserve to be respected as one. It has lowered itself, and it should be treated that way. And I also think we shouldn't be afraid of spurious accusations of anti-Semitism. I think the more we push back against that, the harder and harder it is for them to make that kind of garbage stick. You know, it was pretty clear what was going on there. And they haven't been able to portray this as anti-Semitic because it's just so clear what was going on. So I hope what we did on Sunday is kind of a step forward in pushing back against all kinds of things like that.
So I wonder, I mean, both of you can respond or any of you. I wonder what kind of coverage this got on the mainstream media. How was it covered on the mainstream media is better question. How has this been in your view? And then we'll talk about how it's been going on social media, but let's talk about mainstream media.
Well, I mean, when it comes to mainstream media, obviously, I think I like to live by under promise, over deliver. So barely expect anything, and if you find something really, I guess, that goes your way, at least you're pleasantly surprised instead of just feeling disappointment over and over again. I think for the most part, we saw somewhat fair, like a little bit more than what you would expect when it comes to these demonstrations. But how this is being portrayed in the media, everyone's talking about the nail gun guy. Like, it's insane to me that I know we're going to go into socials in a second, but I think I checked the Homes in Israel Facebook page this morning, and all they could say is this was a great success. You guys did a great job. And I'm just like, really, you want to talk about someone like carrying a nail gun in Canada as a success and job well done? Like, it was insane to me. But it's been you know, it wasn't that large of a group again, but the amount of, you know, it's like one of these things where you just have to sit there and watch the train wreck happen. That's really what we did on the side with our Palestinian allies. Is we just sat back and watched. There came a point where they the police detained a minor, and you know, we were trying to figure out why she detained. She's a minor, etc. And as she's being detained, you hear cheering and clapping and jeering from the other side, and it's like, a minor, really? And then it starts to make you think, like, if this is how they are here, I can only imagine the daily experiences that are not, if not similar, if not 10 times worse than what we saw on Sunday. But I feel the media has been somewhat fair in the sense that, like, they've reported the facts, which is what you would expect from media. I believe there was a few that kind of reworded it in a way that, you know, it was man and like they just used some wordings that I just remember like raising my eyebrow on.
Yeah, right.
Can I make a specific comment there? So probably the most watched TV news in Toronto is called CP24.
Okay.
And then of course they have a website with print news stories. So the first thing they said was something like, "Man arrested at pro-Palestinian protest outside synagogue." That's the headline. Man arrested, right? What man? And what was he arrested for? Oh, he was a rabid, extremist, Zionist, violent person who actually fired a nail gun at one of the Palestinian supporters there. That was not the headline. The headline was, man arrested at pro-Palestinian demonstration. So, like, that's really bad media coverage.
Yep.
But within about an hour, they got so much feedback, including from me, they actually changed the headline.
Okay.
So there's another lesson in that of don't just passively accept stuff, especially in these days when it's not print media and it's electronic media. They can edit it in real time.
Yeah,
and they
that's
did.
true. Yeah. So what did they change it to, David?
I don't remember.
Okay, but something that was better.
It made it clear.
Something that was better,
who
yeah.
was getting arrested for what.
I see. Right. And
The
wait a
headline
minute,
made
did
it
I?
sound like,
Yeah, Reem, did I hear you say that the guy actually did fire a nail?
He did.
Yep, he twice as well.
Twice.
He hit someone.
Yeah.
And he did.
And that was also covered on CP24. I think they did an interview with the man, and he showed on his jacket, where the puncture holes were, and I believe it was a battery pack, or those battery chargers that you hold and carry, is what saved him from any injury.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
It's
about
mind-boggling.
media coverage. Nora, you're asking about media coverage.
Yeah.
First of all, if we hadn't been there wouldn't have been any media coverage.
Well, sure.
The real estate sales would have happened in the synagogue, fly under the radar.
Yeah.
Nobody knows it happened except the people who were the audience for it.
Yeah, fair enough.
So because we were there was widespread media coverage, and the whole thing became kind of problematized, right? It's made into a problem. So I think that's a great success, regardless of the nuance of how they might have reported it or didn't report it. The fact that it even got
into the news because of this action. Yeah, no, definitely. And in the socials, Reem, what's been the reaction? I'm sure both. Let's talk about the positive. I don't want to hear about the other stuff. We can imagine what the other stuff is like. I don't want to dismiss it or take it away, Reem. I'm sure that you and David get a lot of no, I just wanted to finish and say that I'm sure that you guys get a lot of, a lot of hate mail. I'm sure you get a lot of, stuff that's disgusting as well. So we know that happens. Let's talk about what the positives were.
Yeah. The positives, I will say, I know we're saying we're not talking about the other side, but the other side's been fairly quiet about the major things that have come out of it. So I think in that regard, it's kind of a bit of a positive thing.
But I didn't want to cut you off, though, Reem. Feel free to talk about that if you want to. If there's anything there that you want to talk about, please feel free to. Yeah.
The one thing I will say is, I'll go back to the positive, and it's really sad to say positive because obviously there's nothing positive about somebody threatening to hurt another individual. But I think the silver lining that came out of it is, it started to prove more and more. We hear about, the pro-Palestinian rallies. Mayor Olivia Chow, in the early days of this genocide, would label these rallies as pro-Hamas rallies and pro-Hamas protests. And it's funny, we've been labeled as that from day one, as this has been going on for the last few months. But more and more we see, a woman at one of the overpass banner drops did a threatening, cutthroat thing, Nicole, at Avenue and 401. We've only consistently seen violence and actual hate from one side. I'm not going to say who, because I feel like everyone listening has a brain and a pair of eyes and ears that they could listen, but you see a common denominator and you see a common pattern, and you're like, okay, yeah, there is truth in the violence, but where is this violence coming from? It's coming from one specific side consistently. And I think that is the silver lining here, is that, to David's point, had we not been there, this wouldn't have been exposed. This would have been one violent person that would have one day just needed to see a woman in a hijab or someone holding a Palestinian flag or carrying it in their car, for him to get really triggered to see that and shoot at someone with a nail gun. I think, to me, that's the positive. It's taking one less violent person off the streets to harm someone else. There's nothing positive about having someone like that in our society. I think that's been the positive outcome, and when I see our socials, I think everybody's talking about it. I've seen news outlets in the Middle East pick it up. I've seen news outlets in Europe pick it up. It's that's, I think, the positive. The main point was to disrupt. It's not business as usual, to David's point, and we did what we intended to do.
I hope that...
I'd like to
go ahead, David, yes?
Can I add about So about social media, I made a point of making a little video clip of myself saying maybe in 3 sentences what was going on, and then I tweeted it. And that one tweet has gotten over 670,000 views. Just the tweet. And then people picked up on the video and passed that around on Instagram. It's all over the place. It's actually like going viral. And I just saw it on a TikTok. There's a TikTok that's got like 7,000 likes, 833 comments. So we can use social media. What I've said to people is like, be our own media. You know, I'm saying just by me thinking, step off to the side, make a little video of myself saying what's going on and why I'm there, and just send it out there. And I'm sure that's gotten over 1 million views.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is what we love about folks like you guys, Reem and David. You saw the opportunity. You saw that there wasn't much happening in that sense. I mean, and you put it together and you went for it. Reem, you were the one that was organizing it. David, I'm talking about the step that you took in terms of, you know, making the video. And I'm sure, Reem, there's lots of other clips and things that have been shared around in the social media. And it is wonderful that people all over the world get to see this paradox, get to see this irony that is at play here, where we've got lands that are stolen being sold on lands that are stolen. It's really weird,
yeah,
right?
We should talk more about that, you know, talk about the actual issue. So that's really pervasive.
But it's
happening all over.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the distinctions, I think, I just want to hold this distinction. So I think all of us would know that if land in the West Bank is being sold, that land was blatantly just stolen from Palestinians at gunpoint.
Yeah.
That's what's happened. And then some people would say to me, like, but what about land in Tel Aviv? What about land in all these other places inside Israel? And my answer to that is basically almost all of that was stolen 75 years ago instead of 57 years ago. You know, so we shouldn't forget that. It's not, you know, just because something is declared to be legal, it doesn't mean that it's right. There's many legal systems that are created by the colonial powers, you know. The people that conquer a place bring in their own legal system, and then everything becomes legal.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know what I'm saying? So, like, selling real estate in one part, where the international legal system recognizes that's Israel, is like legal. You couldn't prosecute someone for doing that because the law doesn't recognize it as a crime. But doing it in another place, the law actually does recognize it as a crime, and that's what we need to do something about. We have legal means to try to shut that down in Canada. The government of Canada recognizes those settlements as an impediment to peace, you know, and all that. But anyway, it's a very artificial distinction.
Well, I hope that we get our friends together to actually take that up. I mean, I'm talking about folks that are in the legal tradition and you know, are looking for things to do. This is something that they should. It's a very principled issue, and it harkens back to the history. I mean, there have been organizations and individuals such as yourself, David, and others who are taking legal measures, you know, through the courts and so on. We can certainly talk about those things as well a bit later on as we go. But Reem, I just wanted to get back and ask you, what else surprised you or interested you, or that you found interesting in what happened here last weekend?
You know, really, I still feel like over time I sit and I think about it because it only happened yesterday, right?
Yeah, I know. It's really unfair, right? Just to come back to you and ask you all these, like, tell us this, tell us that.
I mean, to David's point, you know, talking about what was going on inside and what we were actually protesting for, we had an individual trying to go in. He registered just like everybody else. And it's funny, I think it was the NCCM the National Muslim Society.
Maybe it was either them or perhaps both with the Canadian Muslim Lawyers Association, perhaps as well. I'm not sure, but we're talking about another video that went viral of a man in a Palestinian hat that had registered and wanted to go in, right?
Yeah,
go ahead.
Exactly. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so that one specifically, regardless of what he was wearing, let's just say if he was not wearing that hat, I'm sure he would have come across trouble. Kind of wish he didn't in a way, but that's totally fine. So I believe it was the National Council of Canadian Muslims, the NCCM. I think it was a week or two ago, put out a public statement that with Ramadan coming up, they would not be allowing any politicians across Canada to visit their mosques. They're not calling for at least refunding UNRWA. Or calling for a ceasefire. But I think funding UNRWA was really the biggest concern. Europe has decided to reinstate funding. What is Canada waiting for? So I think it was a day or two later, some of the pro-Israeli lobby groups here in Canada, specifically B'nai B'rith and CIGA, they put out a statement saying, we welcome everybody, regardless of when, who, what, where, when, why. And it's funny to see what happened yesterday. Okay, fine, I'm not going in for the event. I want to go into the synagogue to facilitate my religious duty, or for whatever reason. Like, I'm not a Christian, but anytime I travel to places like, Vatican City, or anytime I travel to anywhere across Italy, or even in Lebanon, I was in Lebanon like a few months ago, I was able to enter churches and respect and admire, not only the history, but the religion, and, learn a bit more and see the people of faith. So it's just funny, like, you sit back and you look at all of this and you're like, this is hilarious. Like, you're watching somebody on video, on camera, with registration. He did everything he was told to do, and he gets to the door and the first question he's asked is, are you Jewish?
Right.
And I'm not a lawyer, but I know in Canada you cannot deny a specific group, whether they identify with a race or religion or, orientation, entry. You can't discriminate based on any of those. And that's what happened. He was discriminated upon because he wasn't Jewish. He was asked if he was Jewish. He said no. And then they kept making comments about his hat, and he wasn't allowed in. So just, the irony of all of it.
It is really, right, Reem? Isn't it really, really ironic? And what I found really interesting about that particular individual was how ironic it was that he was saying, well, it's Palestinian land, right? So I just want to buy land in Palestine.
Right.
Right.
You're totally right.
And I thought to myself, should we all get together and just pitch in and just buy the land?
Well, listen, you don't think that that's something that's crossed my mind? I mean, it's one of these things where
it's warped, Reem. It's so warped. Go ahead.
I was like, I see this ad. Okay, can I buy back my own land? Like, would my family be able to buy back their own land? And I think David touched on something before, which is, what is technically legal and illegal under international laws because of these borders. But what about people like myself? There's hundreds, if not thousands, of Palestinians and Lebanese across the border. The occupied Palestinian border and the Lebanese border in the south that have deeds. And
well, this is the funniest part. I know, this is really crazy, Reem. It's really crazy. Like, it's just crazy. You just think about, okay, a whole bunch of community coming together and just buying the land so that there could be right of return. It's just really crazy.
Where's my right of return? It would be a dream of mine to see my dad and my uncle, who lives here in Canada as well, and their 9 other brothers and sisters one day be able to go back and touch that land and choose to do with it like everybody else does. I can't imagine somebody coming to my home right now, knocking on my door, saying, well, get out, I just sold your house.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Let alone the land I'm on. The land I'm on is one thing, and in Canada, we're also, Canadians don't recognize a lot of the time that we are also on stolen land.
Well, this is it.
Yes, the properties are different, but we are in stolen land, and Canada's not like any different than any other colonial state. But at least I find, I don't know, there's no really at least. It's sad all around, and it's really disheartening.
It's relative.
And then it's relative, and it's ironic when I get the whole "go back to your home" comments or "go back to your country," and I'm like, I'm trying.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm here to do. I'm trying to go back to my home. Tell me how I can go back to my home.
Yeah, let me go back. Yeah. Yeah. Well, guys, look, we've been talking for a while. I didn't want to hold you up so long. It's really late in the evening, your time. If anybody has any last words, I know that I'll already invite you guys to come back and speak with us as we go. But just in terms of, rounding out this conversation, was there anything that anybody wanted to share?
I will go back to what Reem said before, which is if you feel that something wrong is going down, get out there and try to stop it, protest it. You don't need someone else's permission. You don't need like another organization to come along and like legitimize it. This whole thing actually happened because she and maybe a couple friends, just pushed it and made it happen. And we can all do that.
Yeah.
And actually, I also want to say, if that's not exactly your thing, not everybody likes to get out to protest. I don't like going to protests. But we all have ways that we can contribute and make a difference,
right.
No matter who we are or what we are.
Absolutely.
So figure out what is the thing that you can do and do it.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with David's points. If you can't make it on the ground, there's so many ways that you could, do it with your dollar. We have our power with our money. Boycott, divest. We're calling for sanctions, keep calling for sanctions. A lot of the pressure that could have been put on for this weekend is people calling their local MPs. I called my MP's office asking how an event like this could go on, and I haven't heard back, but at least, again, we're stronger in numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Keep calling for them. And, the one last thing I'll leave everyone off with is I've seen this statement being circulated around online as well. People ask, where was everybody during the Holocaust? Where was everybody during the Rwandan genocide? Where was everybody during the Armenian genocide? Well, this is where we are. Where are you during this? Where are you during this blatant land theft and genocide? At the end of the day, yes, we can look at it and say, well, one problem in Gaza is the bombs that are dropping, which is very dire and in need of immediate attention. And then the other is the West Bank, but they're both very, very closely connected. If once Gaza is gone and once and hopefully it doesn't happen, but the plan is to resettle there. They've been very blatant about it. Then the West Bank, they've been doing it slowly. It's not that they're doing it all at once, but they've been doing it slowly. They've been occupying land. So, they wouldn't be doing these wars and genocides if they didn't have an end goal, which is to occupy more Palestinian land and to build settlements on them and to build properties on them. So this is all tied. So every cause is just, every issue is connected to another. You'd be surprised how all of this spider web leads to one central point. And I encourage anybody that has the will, the power, the might to do anything that they can, whether it's literally sharing posts on social media, be everywhere, be on TikTok, be on Facebook, be on Twitter, be on Instagram. Like, some places are shadow banning us. Keep challenging it. Don't give up. This is the only way this movement has grown as large as it has been is thanks to these platforms that we keep, being very stubborn to use and keep continuing to push calls for help on.
Yeah, and we just wanted to say that we are indebted to folks like you that do the work and get out there and are tireless about it. Indefatigable, right? How do you say it, David? Indefatigable. I don't know. You know what I mean. But we'll leave it there. It's getting late. Even my tongues are getting tied. But folks, it's been really nice talking with you. Thank you for making a little bit. A little bit light about this. We had some fun. We were able to talk about it in a humorous way, just very serious issues. And laughter is important. And,
Absolutely.
it is to your strength and your testimony, Reem, for being able to do this. We salute you and thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you. I appreciate your time as well. And thanks for having me on. I appreciate Rabbi David's support as well and all of this. It's nice to have words of encouragement. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, keep at it. Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you, David.
Okay, good. Yeah, good night. Thank you.
Okay, thank you
Good
very
night.
much. Good
Good
night.
night, folks.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And yes, we are still here, as we like to say, on unceded Coast Salish territories. We are broadcasting out of 100.5 FM and at www.coopradio.org. We're coming to the end of our program this Monday, and we will be joined again next Monday between 5 and 7. And in the meantime, there will be other programming coming up, so stay tuned. And if you want more information, we have it there for you at our website, coopradio.org. And we're going to leave you with some more spoken word, some more music from Rafif Ziada.
Is there a place? Is there a place? Is there a place? Is there a place where we can be more than thunderclaps and hashtags? A place where we are human and our fears not Twitter storms, our flesh not dissected in comment sections. Is there a place? Is there a place where we can be more than thunderclaps and hashtags? A place where we are human and our fears not Twitter storms, our flesh not dissected in comment sections. Is there a place? Is there a place where we can hold each other in sorrow and silence, in defiance, in sorrow and silence, in defiance, before you make a picture funeral to share widely, another name fallen? Is there a place? Is there a place? Is there a place where the headlines don't hate us or assume that we mysteriously die, just fall, and are never killed intentionally by soldiers taking orders, intentionally by snipers taking aim, intentionally by companies making war intentional? Is there a place where the headlines don't hate us? Is there a place where the headlines don't hate us and our life, like our laughter, is intentional? Is there a place? Is there a place I don't have to justify how our lives are also sacred, our lives also matter, and we also love our children? Is there a place where the breaking news, like breaking waves, doesn't just bring more bodies from the Mediterranean? Is there a place? Is there a place? Is there a place where we are more than horror stories and numbers etched on helmets? Stars for generals who calculate the calories to the brink of life. Is there a place? Is there a place? Is there a place? Is there a place? Imagine, just imagine with me, a place not the most beautiful, nothing extraordinary, nothing magical about its oranges, nothing too blue about its skies, just a place where we can be, just a place where we can sit under a tree, just a place where we can be, where we can be, where we can be.